So on April the 16th, Capcom announced their Home Arcade, which is a 2-player, 6-button per side, home arcade stick console system, whatever you want to call it, that allows you to take home the arcade experience by Capcom into the living room. It's a 2-player control deck that allows you to play Capcom CPS-1 and CPS-2 ROMs, and it's got a pretty decent lineup of 16 games. It's got Wi-Fi capability to save your high scores. It costs 230 euros to pre-order over in the UK. I believe Amazon has pre-orders available for it right now. And that kind of translates to about $250 in the United States. It's coming out in October, and a lot of people are hyped about a product like this. Capcom is basically bringing the arcade experience to the living room, and a lot of people are psyched about it. Now, one thing that really piqued my interest was that on their website, they mentioned that they utilize FBAlpha as the emulator. Now, initially, I thought, oh, that's cool. FBAlpha is a pretty good emulator for running Capcom CPS-1 and CPS-2 games. But wait a minute, hold the phone. Did I just say FBAlpha, the emulator that's based on Final Burn with source code from MAME that's non-commercial, as stated by their own license on their website? Yes, I did. In plain English, the license says you may not sell, lease, rent, or otherwise seek to gain monetary profit from FBAlpha. So what exactly is going on here? To kind of answer this a little better, let's have a quick history lesson to explain this in more detail. In 2001, the emulator known as Final Burn initially released supporting Sega System 16 titles like Afterburner, Galaxy Force, and Rail Charge. Eventually, it started emulating Capcom CPS-1 and CPS-2 ROMs. The hype at the time for Capcom CPS-2 was huge, and Final Burn was a very popular emulator. Development of Final Burn promptly ceased, with the author Dave leaving the scene and releasing the source code for others to use. Final Burn had a very simple license in place. The license stated, you can use, modify, and redistribute the code freely as long as you do not do so commercially. This copyright notice must remain with the code. If the program uses this code, you must either distribute or link to the source code. If you modify or improve this code, you must distribute the source code improvements. In other words, do what you want with the code, just don't sell it. After Final Burn stopped development and Dave left the scene, the FBA or FBAlpha team formed, and with the Final Burn source code continuing developing the emulator to what it is today. The Final Burn Alpha license agreement maintains the same non-commercial license from Final Burn as to what the emulator is derived from, but also uses source code from MAME, which also has a non-commercial license in place. So then how did FBAlpha end up proudly advertised on Capcom's arcade website and specifically mentioned? That's a great question, so let's walk through two possible scenarios. The first is Capcom just lifted FBAlpha code with complete disregard for the non-commercial agreement. But let's be clear, this is not the first time it's happened. Now, not by Capcom, but by other hardware makers. Those terrible AtGames flashback systems all use FBAlpha. The Neo Geo X, remember that? It also uses FBAlpha. And many of the cheaper Chinese Pandora's Box multi-cartridges and home arcade sticks use it too. FBAlpha uses less resources and overhead than MAME and runs better on slower processors, hence the reason why you see this used a lot. The difference here is, however, is that AtGames, Pandora's Box and the Neo Geo X never advertised it. Only once the systems were hacked or jailbroken, it was usually revealed that FBAlpha was the emulator. In this case, however, Capcom are proudly advertising FBAlpha as the emulator that they are using, and that's just not right. And then we come to scenario 2, that some type of deal was worked out with Team FBAlpha and Capcom to use FBAlpha in their home arcade stick, or maybe the emulator does not come supplied with the stick itself, rather that the emulator must be downloaded by the user after accepting some type of end-user license agreement to get around the sketchy legal, I suppose. When the announcement was made, I was confused. As someone who's ported FBAlpha to a number of consoles, the original Xbox, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, you're welcome homebrew community by the way, something didn't add up. For all the work I've done on FBAlpha over the years, I've always had to supply source code and the same non-commercial license agreement with each version of the game I ever released. This was made pretty clear to me by the FBAlpha developers, so that's exactly what I did. My initial thought was Capcom just lifted the code without asking, so I asked a few FBAlpha developers and all of them had no idea about this at all, and they weren't happy. In the past, the team has gone after and in some cases blocked others from attempting to sell FBAlpha, But this is Capcom we're talking about. On face value, it appears that Capcom just stole the code from themselves to use with the arcade stick. Maybe Capcom felt like there was some entitlement to FBAlpha and just took it. But that's where things get interesting. Barry Harris, known as Treble Winner, runs the FBAlpha team, including the website, and he tweeted on April the 16th that FBAlpha had been licensed by Capcom Home Arcade. Initially, I thought that this was good enough. To be fair on me, I haven't worked on FBAlpha in many years, so maybe the license had changed. But when I went back to the FBAlpha website to check out the license, it's the exact same non-commercial license that it's always been. So Treble Winner's tweet concerned me greatly. Did he sell out Team FBAlpha to Capcom? When I asked more FBAlpha devs, every single one of them were unaware of Treble Winner's tweet, and they were not happy. MAME developers also felt the same way. MAME is used in much of the CPS 1 and 2 emulation, including the Kabuki decryption that's used in CPS 1 games. And that's where we are today. Neither Capcom or Barry Harris has responded or clarified their original statements. Capcom clearly should not be advertising and indeed using FBAlpha in their product, and many of the FBAlpha devs are quite unhappy at Barry Harris for his tweet, and some of them are threatening to quit the group and take their code with them. And I can't say that I blame them at all. Now of course, this could all be cleared up and it may be some big misunderstanding if Barry Harris comes back and clarifies his original statement, but I fail to see how there's any way that Capcom could maintain and get a license for FBAlpha, especially with a non-commercial agreement. And as of the making of this video, the Capcom Home Arcade website is kind of down right now. It's like being, you know, reworked or something. There's nothing on the page right now. Like everything is completely gone. So I don't know if Capcom is going back and rewording their documentation on the particular press release that they announced for this product, as well as the Final Burn Alpha forums. The link was removed on their particular website, but you can still access their forums. So I'm not really sure what's going on here. I just, you know, it just feels very suspicious to me that there's been a lot of shenanigans that have been going on behind the scenes that most or not all, if not all of the Final Burn Alpha developers are completely unaware and completely blindsided. But that's just my opinion, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.